Imagine it's the middle of July. The heat is absolutely unbearable. Your skin is burning just standing still, and the only thing you want to do is jump into freezing cold water. We all love water parks, right? The massive water slides, the huge pools, and the pure adrenaline under the sun. It's the absolute best part of the summer. But what if your favorite way to cool down turned into a bloody nightmare in a matter of seconds? Seriously, guys, after you hear what happened to a boy named Andres, you are going to think twice before launching yourself down just any water slide ever again. This story completely shocked me because it took place at a normal, popular park, just like the ones you visit. He didn't see the hidden danger until it was way too late. And what the doctors told his parents at the hospital will honestly terrify you. If you love water parks and want to know how to stay safe this summer, make sure you watch this entire video until the very end, because the mistake Andres made is one that almost everyone makes without realizing it. Before we dive into the chilling details, hit that like button and subscribe right now. This terrifying event took place about a year ago at a popular water park located in a beautiful coastal city. It was the middle of July, and the heat was absolutely unbearable. It was one of those scorching summer days where your skin burns just standing still, and the only thing you can think about is jumping into freezing cold water.
There was an energetic 9-year-old boy named Andres. He was beyond excited because, after months of begging, his parents had finally agreed to take him to this specific water park. Andres was not an ordinary kid. He was a total daredevil. He loved extreme thrills, high speeds, and big adventures. While other kids hesitated, Andres was always the very first one to climb the tallest platforms, the one who performed the craziest flips into the deep end, and the one who never showed a single ounce of fear. His parents constantly worried about him. They always told him to slow down, to be careful, and not to be so reckless. But Andres would just laugh, shake his head, and confidently say, "Don't worry, Mom and Dad, I know exactly what I'm doing." To beat the massive summer crowds, the family arrived at the park gates early in the morning, just as the sun was rising. The park was absolutely massive. It looked like a magical kingdom made entirely of blue water and colorful plastic. It featured 10 giant slides, a massive wave pool that mimicked the ocean, lazy rivers, and special play areas for tiny toddlers. Andres stood at the entrance completely amazed. His eyes darted from one massive structure to another, carefully planning his ultimate route for the day. His parents smiled, paid for the admission tickets, and gave him a few ground rules. They told him to stay safe, keep his eyes open, and reminded him that they would be relaxing on the lounge chairs right next to the main pool if he ever needed them. The moment his hands were free, Andres took off running like a flash of lightning. He headed straight for the most famous, tallest, and most terrifying slide in the entire park. This slide was a massive, completely enclosed tube that twisted and turned like a snake. It forced riders through 5 dark, dizzying loops before throwing them out into a deep pool. Because the park had just opened its doors, the line was incredibly short. Andres only had to wait about 10 minutes, his heart pounding with pure excitement. When he finally reached the very top, the lifeguard gave him the standard safety instructions. Cross your arms tightly over your chest. Keep your legs locked straight together. Do not move until you see the green light. The light flashed green, and Andres launched himself into the dark tube. It was absolutely incredible. The speed was dizzying. The water splashed heavily against his face, and the sharp turns through his body from side to side. It was pure adrenaline. When he finally shot out of the tube and splashed into the exit pool, he had a massive smile on his face. He loved it so much that he immediately ran back up the stairs and rode the Blue Serpent 5 more times in a row. After an hour of riding the same slide, Andres decided it was time to explore the rest of the park. He walked around with his towel over his shoulders, looking for his next big challenge. He tried 3 or 4 more slides, and they were all fantastic, fast, and completely safe. But then, as he walked toward the very back edge of the property, he noticed something unusual. Hidden away in a quiet, lonely corner of the park, surrounded by tall trees, stood a slide that was not listed on the colorful park map. It looked much older, faded and weathered compared to the rest of the bright attractions. A rusty metal sign at the bottom read, "The Red Lightning." Unlike the Blue Serpent, this was an open-air slide. It was a type of ride where you sit out in the open and can see the entire park around you as you rush down. However, something felt very strange about it. The rest of the park was packed with shouting families, but this area was completely quiet. There were only 3 people waiting in line. On a burning hot summer day, a giant water slide with no line is highly unusual. Andres didn't think about the danger. Instead, he thought he was just incredibly lucky. He assumed that other people simply hadn't discovered this hidden gem yet. Eager to skip the long lines elsewhere, he hurried up the wooden stairs before anyone else could show up. When he reached the top platform, a small red flag went up in his mind. The lifeguard stationed at the top looked completely bored and deeply distracted. Instead of watching the pool or checking the riders, he was staring down at his cell phone, typing away with a lazy smile. Andres thought to himself that this was very irresponsible, but because he was so desperate to ride, he decided to ignore it. When it was Andres' turn, the lifeguard didn't even look up from his screen. He simply waved his hand in the air, signaling the young boy to go, without offering a single safety instruction or checking his posture. Andres sat down at the edge of the steep drop, ready to fly. From this height, the view was breathtaking. He could see the glittering wave pool, the tiny people below, and the beautiful ocean in the distance. He placed his hands firmly on the plastic edges of the slide, took a deep breath, and pushed himself forward with all his strength to start the descent. The first 3 seconds felt completely normal. He picked up speed quickly, feeling the rushing water beneath him and the hot wind blowing through his hair. He felt like he was flying. But then, everything went horribly wrong. About halfway down the track, the slide entered a sharp curve. As Andres flew around the bend, he noticed the texture of the plastic suddenly changed. Something felt terribly wrong with the track ahead. Before his brain could even process the danger, his bare back slid over a rough section of the tube. Snap! A blinding sharp pain shot straight through his lower back. It felt like a hot iron or a razor blade cutting deep into his skin. Something sharp was sticking out of the slide, and he had hit it at full speed. Andres, in absolute agony, a sound of pure terror that was instantly drowned out by the roaring sound of the rushing water. He desperately wanted to stop his body, but it was physically impossible. The water was too fast, the slide was too steep, and momentum kept dragging him down. The rest of the ride was a living nightmare. Every small bump and turn caused the open wound on his back to rub against the plastic, sending waves of intense pain through his entire body. Tears welled up in his eyes as he prayed for the ride to end. Finally, he shot out of the tunnel and plunged deep into the water of the exit pool. The cool water stung his wound like 1,000 needles. He struggled to surface, gasping for air, and immediately reached behind himself to touch his lower back. The area felt on fire. He slowly dragged himself out of the pool, his legs shaking violently. He looked down at his hand, and his heart skipped a beat. His palms and fingers were covered in bright red blood. It wasn't just a tiny scratch. He was actively bleeding. Panic completely took over. Terrified and crying, he began the long walk back across the crowded park to find his parents. As he walked through the crowds, the atmosphere changed. The happy music and laughter seemed to fade away. People turned around and began to stare at him with wide, shocked eyes. Strangers gasped, pointing at his back, and a few worried mothers rushed over to ask if he needed help. Andres couldn't even speak. He just kept walking, focused entirely on finding his mom and dad. When he finally reached the lounge chairs, his mother took one look at him and let out a loud, terrifying scream that made nearby swimmers turn around. She rushed to his side, turned him around, and gasped in horror. Across Andres' lower back
was a long, deep, jagged cut that was dripping blood down his swim shorts. It looked like he had been attacked by a wild animal with sharp claws.
His father instantly turned red with pure rage.
"What happened to you? Who did this?"
His father demanded, his voice shaking with anger. Through heavy tears, Andres pointed toward the lonely corner of the park and explained what had happened on the Red Lightning. Without losing a single second, his father scooped him up in his arms and rushed him straight to the park's emergency medical station, while his mother followed closely behind, trembling with anxiety. Inside the quiet clinic, a kind nurse immediately laid Andres face down on a medical bed. She washed the wound with antiseptic, which made Andres grip the edges of the bed and cry out in pain. After examining the injury closely, she sighed with relief. She explained that while the cut was deep and looked terrifying, it was technically a severe scrape and would not require stitches. She carefully applied a soothing cream and wrapped his entire torso in thick, clean, white bandages. While she was securing the tape, the nurse looked at Andres with a serious expression. "Sweetie, can you tell me exactly which slide you were riding when this happened?" she asked softly. "It was the old one in the back," Andres whispered, wiping his eyes. "The Red Lightning." The moment those words left his mouth, the nurse's face turned pale. Her kind smile vanished, replaced by a look of deep worry and anger. She shook her head and sighed heavily. She confessed to the parents that the Red Lightning had been experiencing major structure and maintenance issues for over a month. The fiberglass sections were old and splitting apart under the hot sun. Just a week prior, a team of workers discovered that the heavy movements of the riders had caused the plastic to crack, leaving sharp edges and large metal screws protruding directly into the path of the riders. The park management had closed the slide temporarily, and a maintenance supervisor had signed a document claiming it was fully repaired and 100% safe to reopen. But clearly, someone had lied. The park had rushed the repairs to start making money from the slide again, completely ignoring the safety of the children riding it. Later that afternoon, a full inspection team went to examine the Red Lightning. What they found was horrifying. Not only was the screw that cut Andres still sticking out, but there were 3 other sections of the slide that were on the verge of collapsing completely. Andres had actually been incredibly lucky. The doctors later told his parents that if the metal screw had been just a few millimeters higher, or if Andres had been sliding down at a faster speed, the metal could have severed a major artery or damaged his spine permanently. It could have changed his life forever, or worse, ended it. This story teaches us a lesson that we must never forget. When we visit water parks, theme parks, or carnival fairs, we automatically assume that we are safe. We trust that the managers, the engineers, and the lifeguards have done their jobs correctly. We believe that our safety is their #1 priority, but the sad, harsh truth is that this is not always true. Some companies are greedy. They cut budget costs, hire lazy staff, skip regular maintenance checks, and put their daily financial profits far ahead of human lives. Children have incredible natural instincts. If a ride looks scary or feels wrong, they shouldn't force themselves to do it just to look brave. Andres learned this lesson the hard way, and he promises to never ride an old, unmonitored slide ever again. Please stay safe out there this summer. Enjoy the water, chase the thrills, and have the time of your life. But always remember to keep your eyes open. Your safety is ultimately in your own hands. Have you or your friends ever had a scary experience at an amusement park or a water park? Do you always check the safety of a ride before jumping on? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Stay safe, and I will see you all in the next video.